Hello everyone, it's Shannon here for Honeybee Stamps. In today's video, we're going to do something a little bit different, and we are going to hot foil with our dies. We'll then use those foil die cuts to then create this really striking and fun birthday card. We're going to start with the Lovely Layers Fall Bounty dies. I'm going to go ahead and place these dies onto my Glimmer machine, and I'm going to warm up my platform and the dies at the same time. I find I get better results when I warm up my foil plates, or in this case my dies, up with the platform. So once that green light turns on, we'll be ready for the timer. So there you go. You can see the green light is turned on. So I'm going to click that timer, and then when the timer stops blinking, we are ready to construct our sandwich, which we are here. So I'm going to detach the platform from the base. Then I'll start my sandwich off with my foil. I'm going to use polished brass. Just place that shiny side or foil side down. Then my cardstock, I'm using 110-pound white cardstock. Then I will grab the shim, and then next the spacer pad. Once I put those two plates on top, I'm going to add to my sandwich two 110-pound white cardstock panels. We need that additional pressure to really help that foil transfer from the dies to the cardstock. So here is the foiled piece here. You can see we have all these beautifully foiled squash or gourds, and now we're going to move on to die cutting them out. The Lovely Layers dies, I want to point out, are actually really good for this technique. A lot of other dies out there won't really work, and the reason why the Lovely Layers dies works is because they have these raised areas in the die that will create debossed details on your cardstock, but those debossed details are actually what gets foiled, and so you end up with these really cool die cuts with some foil accents, which I think is so awesome. So I went ahead and lined the dies back up with the foiled squash, and then ran it through my die cut machine. I even die cut out, and I even foiled, but you don't need to, the tops for all of my squash. Now we're going to move on to ink blending. I'm going to start with this large one here, and I'm going to ink blend kind of the upper 2/3 with crushed olive, and then the lower third here I'll ink blend in Rustic Wilderness. I basically have two distress inks picked out for each one of my gourds or squash, and I just really like the two-tone combo. Now we're moving on to this little guy here. We're going to start with Crackling Campfire. This is going to be kind of my dark orange red squash. First, completely ink blend it with that Crackling Campfire, and then ink blend the top and bottom with Fired Brick. Now we're moving on to this guy here. We're going to start with Scattered Straw, ink blend the whole thing, and then ink blend the top and bottom with Fossilized Amber. Moving on to our next squash, I'm going to ink blend it first with Mustard Seed, and then move on to a little bit of Wild Honey for the bottom and a little bit at the top as well. Next up is that large pumpkin. I'm going to ink blend it all in Spiced Marmalade, of course. Got to go for a nice orange for that pumpkin. Once I finish with the Spiced Marmalade, I'll go back to that Crackling Campfire and just ink blend the bottom of the pumpkin to kind of create that look of roundness, going to give it a little bit more shape. When we finish up with that pumpkin, we only have one more to go, one kind of little pumpkin here. I'm going to ink blend this in a green combo, starting first with Shabby Shutters, and ink blend the whole pumpkin with this kind of light minty kind of green. Once we finish with Shabby Shutters, we'll move on to Peeled Paint, and again, just like the large pumpkin, we're just going to ink blend the bottom a little bit to kind of create that illusion of roundness. Once we finish with that little pumpkin there, we have the tops at the very bottom. I'm going to start by ink blending all of those stems with Vintage Photo. And once we kind of get them all completely covered with that brown, we'll try to kind of add a little bit more interest with ground espresso. We'll use that ground espresso kind of at the bottom of each one of these stems, and that just gives this stem a little bit more shape and more volume. And once we finish with those stems with that ground espresso, we are ready to kind of put these squash together. I'm going to start with this one in the upper left, grab that stem and line it up. These are really easy to kind of line up. If you need help at all kind of figuring out which stem goes with which squash, definitely check out the website for pictures of the finished or complete squash so you can tell which one they go on, but I had no problem. I didn't even look. I just kind of could tell which one went with the squash. And here are our finished gourds and squashes, or gourds and pumpkins. Now we're going to move on to a sentiment. I have the awesome Heartfelt Hello stamp set here. I've grabbed this hilarious sentiment which says, "Oh my gourd, it's your birthday," and I just think that's so funny. I'm going to stamp it onto some black cardstock, but I am going to heat emboss, so I did apply some anti-static powder, inked up the sentiment in embossing and Watermark ink, and stamped it. Now we're going to go ahead and dip it into our gold embossing powder, tap off the excess, and then of course heat set with our heat tool. Super duper love the high contrast we have here of that beautiful gold embossed sentiment and that black cardstock. I did off camera trim our panel down to 3 3/4 by 5, so it's a little bit smaller than an A2 panel, and that's going to give give us this nice craft border when we adhere it onto our A2 top folding craft card base. Now I'm going to move on to arranging all of my squash and gourds here. Going to kind of create this little cute cluster of them at the top or just above the sentiment. Once I get all of my die cuts arranged the way that I like, then I'll kind of carefully remove the top layer of them and add a little bit of liquid adhesive to the bottom of that back layer of gourds. So here I am adding that little dab of adhesive, and then I'll place my pumpkins right on top and stick those down over those back layer of die cuts. Now that that arrangement is all done, I'm going to go ahead and add some foam adhesive because we want a little bit of dimension here, because dimension is just, well, as Laura Basson says, dimension is life. So I'm going to go ahead and add some foam dimension to the back side of all my die cuts, remove that backing, and then I'll just place it right above my sentiment. And after we get that stuck down, our card is complete. And look at how striking our die cuts look on that black background. I love it. You can definitely see those hot foiled details over the gourds. It really makes all of that accent, all those additional details really pop. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you have any questions about the products I use, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.